Hey guys, welcome to Code Blocks. This is John. You're watching Sawtooth tutorial, and in this video, we are going to create an API part of this. So, in the last 4 5 videos, we have seen creating a credential and submitting transaction to blockchain, and that was well over. And in this video, we are going to create it as an API, and so that we can hit these endpoints and create credentials. So, for this, I'm going to use express.js, which is a very popular library for creating API in JavaScript, Node.js. So to start, we have to install an express.js from npm. Once it's installed, I'm going to copy some boilerplate code, and this boilerplate will code contain parsing the request body and URL encoded request bodies. And this will also create an app instance. So these are all normal boilerplate code for an express.js application. And so we are going to create a routes folder and controllers and services folder to separate the use cases for our application. Okay, so this controllers will contain all the required business logics, and this services will contain all the external API calls and utilities. Okay, so in this first utility, I'm going to create a credential.js file, which will actually contain the parts where we'll be writing the code to create the sawtooth specific credentials, okay, which we have already did. So I'm just going to copy over all the required imports from the other file, and this function we have written will be creating a hex format of a private key, and we'll be modifying this constant and make it export so that it can be accessed outside the file and not inside the file. So we need one more dependency, that is SCCP. So we are going to copy that also, and once it's copied, let's apply format, and this private key with creation method is now there, and we also need a function or a method to create a signer or the sawtooth specific private key instance out of this. So this will receive a private key hex that we have created in the previous function as an input, and over there we'll copy these three lines, which will create an instance of the sawtooth signing user. Okay, so we'll also copy the dependencies that is required for this particular line. Okay, so finally, once all is there, we are going to return the signer, and maybe we can modify this to like a meaningful name. This is a sawtooth application, so I don't think we need a sawtooth signer. So this is get signer method, which will receive like wait there. Okay, so it will receive a hex string, and using that hex string, we'll create an instance of the signer. Okay, so once this is all sorted out, we have to move on to the next part. Okay, where we'll need to write routes. Okay, so writing routes is like we need to create a routes.js file, or we can name it a file in the user.js name. Okay, once we name the file, we have to import the dependencies from the express.js or the express. Okay, so the dependency that will be importing is router. So this router we'll call this router function, and we'll create a router. Okay, for why we are doing this, this router will be imported onto the main.js file, and from there we could call where it could register more endpoints in separate files. Okay, so this will be register endpoint, which will receive request and response. So the request will contain any body query or parameters from the user. There is actually a lot of methods also, so that we will not cover in this video because this is not API tutorial. This is blockchain tutorial. So this request and response method could be separated into another file. So that will be called as controllers. In this controllers, we can actually write uh, the code as it is, or we can separate the request response as after filtering some data from the request and response, we can actually write the controller where the business logics will be written. So here I'm not going to do much stuff since this is just some temporary code. We'll be later on moving to a better version of this code. Okay, so here we are going to import the service that we have written earlier, which will create a private key. Okay, so we just going to create a private key, but just in case, we can also receive a user request, like a read the request body. Okay, so first we'll create a private key, then we'll return a response saying that okay, this is the private key, and for this user ID we have created the private key, but we are not storing that right now, and I'm not going to tell that to the user. Okay, so in case the user or ID is sent to us, we are going to return as it is. Okay, so this is the use case for now, and it will change later. Okay, now as you can see, we have imported the controller and we got the router ready, registered with the handler for the register API. Okay, so this main.js, we have to register those newly created endpoints, and I'm gonna create authentication as the base API path, and then we are going to import the user um, route that we have created now. There's one mistake I made, which is like I didn't export the routes out of the file. So even if I complete this won't be imported into this function. So for that, what I have to do is like I have to go to that user.js and export the router out of this file. So module.exports equal to router will export this router instance out of the file, and it will be now used in the auth endpoint. Okay, so auth slash register will be our endpoint to register. So we are going to start the server. Okay, maybe we can use environment variable like a future scope. Like it could be coming from an environment variable or static port. So we'll check if the port is given. So port, this is port. Then default we'll go with 8080. Okay. App.listen will start the service, and we have to supply a minimum port. Okay, minimum one parameter port, and the optional parameter is 000. So if in case this is running in a server, then this API will be available outside the server also, because 0000 indicates it could be accessed outside the currently running server also. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, you just want access in localhost, you can just mention localhost or just leave that empty. Okay, so this endpoint is going to be the place we are going to test the code is running or not. So we can have a health endpoint that will be just telling us okay whether the service is running or not. Okay, so this will just send us a message saying okay, the service is running. Okay, this is the message. So it could be a simple message to indicate 200 response from the server, so that we know that the service is running and not dead by any unhandled exceptions we have in the server. We'll also modify the script a bit, and I don't think this is going to be a long-term solution to keep the API and the contract part together. Okay, so for that, have to create another script for running the contract, and this existing start and dev script is going to be just for the express.js application, and we can have a contract script to run the original contract that we intended to run. Okay, maybe we can rename the index.js to a more meaningful name, transaction processor.js, which indicates this is a transaction processor and not to be touched with. Okay, so the same name we have to put it in the script, like the package JSON script. Once we mention the script name over here, and we can also run the test, but I'm sure this will anyway run. So we'll start the dev script, and our API is running. If we hit the endpoint, okay, so there's some issue. Okay, the issue is like we have to add a slash before, so it could be registered as an actual endpoint, and yeah, it's working. Okay, this will do the same thing for the auth.js, and to test the auth endpoint, it's a post request, so we need a client to test this endpoint with. So we'll go with the tool called Postman. A collection is like a group of APIs clubbed together based on use case or the application specific. So this is a demo application, and this application has an health endpoint and a register endpoint. So first I'll register the health endpoint. I'll mention the API URL over in the enter URL part. Okay, so we could also like have use of this like variables functions, where we can mention the variable name and the value of the variable. Okay, so this will work like environment variables. Okay, so but inside the Postman. So when we have it like this, okay, I will reset. So when we have it like this, we could use reuse the value that we have defined here like curly brace API, close curly brace, close curly brace. Okay, now that that will be substituted with the localhost we have given, and health point is running. We'll also register user, and this register user is a post call. Okay, like we did, have coded in the code. This will be auth slash register, and body is not currently validated, which we are going to do in the later sessions. And this is like a JSON data. Okay, so this will like there we are requesting like user ID, and we are responding the same thing back. Let's see if the AP is not working. Okay, why? Okay, I think I got it. Like the credential is getting generated, so there's no issue with the API side. I think it's probably response. So, okay, so I thought it's just an SJS application where I just return the response. It will handle the response handling. This is in this express.js, we have to use response.send or response.json to send the response. So if we hit the endpoint again, it should work. Yeah, so every time we hit the endpoint, it will generate a new credential because we are not storing the credentials anywhere. Okay, we are not checking if the user is exists or not. So that logic would be handled using the local storage, local variables for now. Maybe we can use a database like Postgres or MongoDB in the later version of this tutorial. But like, let's register this. This is the user ID for this private key. Okay. Um, and also we need to check if the user is already registered. Okay, I think I have a better idea. Let's destruct the variable, and we'll probably have easier way to handle this, like repeated value request.body.user id request.body.user id. Okay, so instead of that, we just you mention user id. So if the user id is already there, we'll respond this, like if we have to use the return statement. Else if you return, like if both response dot status dot json and response dot json gets ran in the backend, it will result in an error like already response is sent, why you are trying to send it again. Okay, so you have to return in case of error, and user already exists, but this is the first time we are running the API. Okay, there's an issue with the code. Okay, so this logic we are setting the credential should be run after which checked. Okay, so now we are having, now we don't have the access. Okay, so this is the user registration part, and okay, I'm a bit tired now. It's okay. Now we have to create a React.js application, and we can check the connectivity with the backend, and also check the backend code is working or not. Okay, so for this, I'll have to create a new React.js application, which we'll see in the next class.